So, you want to make video games, but one of the issues you're finding is that doing a lot of stuff in game dev is really hard. Even games with simple designs like Rocket League have a lot of detail and polish to them and have had numerous developers working on them to make them the quality that they are now. And you're starting to realize, I don't have the time or the effort or the energy or even the skill to make something to this level that I want. It can even be games from other solo developers, and you could be looking at these people and realizing, hey, they're maybe the same age as me, maybe even younger, and somehow they're managing to make stuff that is great quality, but they're a solo game dev. Everything I try to make is either rushed or there's quality missing from it. And so in this video, I want to direct you a little bit and maybe steer your focus more towards the right direction to make a game that you can be proud of. First thing is to limit your scope. I know that you want to make your game the biggest and bestest, but you need to understand and expect and just know that this game is going to be small. And so what you should do is just choose one thing in your game you're going to do really, really well. Now, I suggest it being a gameplay element or, something that obviously people, when playing the actual game, they can get feedback from and enjoy it, as much as UI systems and honestly, graphics could be something, but that's kind of depending on what game you're making as well. Focusing on something like a core game mechanic to do really well and focus all your efforts on and to make sure that fun factor and that polish is there for it will really help your game stand out compared to other people who are making their first game who try to cover every aspect of making a game and they want to do it the best they can. But because of that, the resources are so scarce and they're still learning how to do the different things. There's nothing in particular in the game that's really well done. If there's a genre that you really love, whether, it's something simple like a 2D platformer or like a first-person adventure game, finding an attribute that you really want to polish out, make unique. Once you have that base to sit on, the thing that holds all your game together, look at the other attributes of your game, whether it's UI or music. Just try to lift everything up a little bit to be to a good quality of life. But don't spend any more time on making that piece of your game perfect. Once it works, it's functional, it looks good, you're happy with it, leave it alone. Move on to the next thing and keep with this decent standard of it working, it looking decent, isn't going to draw players away from your game. Don't be afraid to cut corners and remove content. Much like these YouTube videos, if I put in every bit of content that I could from this recording, it would be too long, it wouldn't be interesting, and it takes away from the more important parts. The same thing is with your game. If there's a dialogue system that you're finding frustrating to implement and you realize if I just took it out, it wouldn't really do much, I can replace it with, signs on a wall or notes that players can pick up, do it. Trim all the fat from your game. If players only spend a short amount of time in a certain level, don't spend all your time making it the best level it can be, because players are only going to spend so much time in that level. Concentrate your resources, your time, your energy on the most important aspects of your game. If your game doesn't need a save system, if it doesn't need a boss battle, if it doesn't need something, remove it, get rid of it, and just try to keep all the core aspects of your game together. The example I can give is the first game that I actually finished, which is called Arrow Tempest. It's a very simple game where you have the arrow keys and all you need to do is press them a certain amount of time and then that count number kind of goes into a record. And then it was a really good party game for my friends at school because we would just smash our keys and see who could get the highest score in the shortest amount of time. And you know what? This is a great example of what did it have. It had a menu system, which honestly turned out better than I thought it would. It had UI that was functional. It had gameplay that, people got more caught up on the competition that happened in the metagame than the actual game itself. So I didn't focus too much on the actual programming of the game mechanics. It's very simple, just pressing 2 buttons and it's a counter. So very simple scripting. The backgrounds, they needed something sometimes. And so I just did something random and people were fine with it. People weren't fussed with what the background was. They're more focused on the core aspect of the game, which is pressing buttons. And this is a very simple game you can copy and duplicate, and by all means go ahead. But it shows the examples of I didn't add, I didn't even have a high score system in the game. People just kept that record for themselves. Understanding what your game needs to be a game and just inserting that. If you're stuck on a feature, the best way to learn as a creator, if you're stuck on something, is find a creative way around it. If there is something you want to add to your game, but you don't have the skill or the talent, the artistic flair, whether it is with programming or design or art or whatever, find a way to get around it, or just do a bare bone minimum that is, to a decent quality standard, isn't going to frustrate players to exit out of your game. If there's anything in your game that is distracting because it's bad, it's taking players out of the experience because the thing that they're trying to do is drawn away from the thing that isn't working because you don't know how to do it, get rid of it, remove it. Okay? Simplicity is key to things like this. And as you grow as a developer, as you spend more time in the code, as you spend more time learning how to do 2D, 3D art, design, whatever, as you start to learn and become more confident with the engine, then over time you better add these things into your games. But what you need to do right now is to finish your game, go through the process of iterating, of creating, of developing, play testing with people. And once you go through those cycles more and more, then you begin to grow more and learn more and get feedback, understand what is fun. One of the drawbacks I have that I wish I had someone had told me so much sooner, and I don't have to, realize this myself, is that games, although they're very technical, it doesn't matter. The one thing that matters is the fun, the entertainment, your vision getting across to someone. If you want to make a video game that's full of story and characters and emotion, then do everything you can in your power to convey that vision you have. Don't get too focused on trying to duplicate some AAA game, okay? If you want to make an incredible story game, you don't need to make a Witcher grade level with full motion capture and realistic characters and branching storyline. You don't need to do that. What you need to do is sit down and say, okay, with the tools and resources that I have, I can make a simple story game that could be just a player walking around and talking with people. Could be a player walking around and picking up items. So when you want to go and make a game inspired by Elden Ring, it doesn't need to necessarily be a really difficult, hard, open world, brutal combat, beautifully detailed sort of game. You don't need to make Elden Ring one-to-one. You can think of the attributes you enjoy from Elden Ring. Do you enjoy the medieval design? Do you enjoy the darker setting? Do you enjoy the combat? Do you enjoy the difficulty? Take away all of the mechanics and all the systems and all the... if you were to close your eyes and explain to someone who couldn't see what the game was, explain more emotionally and informatively to them why you enjoy this game. Look at that and then try to convey those feelings onto paper. And then from that, as a designer, figure out ways you can, through your current skills and talents, what game you can make. Focus on what those games you played and love, how they made you feel. Because obviously that's the thing you want to make and help others feel as well. Here's the honest truth, that game's already out there. And so if people want to feel what you feel in your exact way, you could just share them that game that you've played. You don't need to make your own one and present it to them. What you can do, however, as a developer, is interpret those thoughts and feelings into your own design, into your own game. It's great to learn how to make things similar like it and understanding the programming systems for that, but I think developers need to step away more from making clones of their favorite games and become more original. I think we have this untapped creativity. There's developers who can make incredible things. Okay, I've seen kids as young as 12 make games that baffle my mind. I'm like, well, you have all this time and energy and thought process to make something, basically a one-for-one clone. But if you interpret that differently, thought of it more as a developer and designer rather than this, someone wanting to copy the code and design completely, and interpret those feelings and design mechanics, how does this game make me feel? How can I make something similar to that? You're going to end up helping the genre and the medium, and you're going to make more original content. And that's something that, over time, you'll learn new skills, you'll learn new systems, the tools and whatever. All of that stuff will grow with you as you make more and more things in it. But what also needs to grow is the way in which you design and interpret your media, because I know some people see themselves as, programmers or, more technical people who create products and work with products and software and whatever. But if you're doing this solo, like myself, then you need to understand that this is an art form, and what you're presenting is, in a way, your interpretation of the world and art. And we can get into the deep, meaningful things of what art is and interpret it and stuff like that. But I feel that my growth as a game developer was stagnated because I was so focused on the technical aspects of things. If I had looked more into design and understanding and interpreting other games, what they are, and basically doing this process of, okay, these are the thoughts and feelings I have for games, how can I make that with what I have and already know? That will help you so much as a developer. It will help you build your portfolio. It will help you learn and iterate on games more quickly, meaning you can show them to people more, and people will take you more seriously because of it. Look, I will admit a lot of people at first glance will look at a game and judge it based on how similar it is to another game that they love. I understand that we see it with first-person shooters, third-person adventure games. A lot of the mainstream games are just copying the previous iterations that were successful. What we're missing is really good interpretations of those games. Okay, imagine making a game, nothing like The Last of Us. Okay, it doesn't need to be third person, stealth, whatever, but finding a way to make a game as emotionally impactful, I think, is so much more of a skill, and gives you honor points to you as a creative. Of you can create those same feelings with your medium, with the tools you have at your disposal now. It means that as your skills grow, your games are also going to grow in design. Right now, I'm scrambling to realize how I'm going to make a well-designed game, because I've been so focused on the technical aspects of making good models, on understanding how to program in C#, on save systems, and all these technical aspects of it. But I've completely ignored the actual design. And so when I'm actually making these games, although they look good, technically they are working a lot better than they have in previous iterations of my work. What they're missing is the soul, the design, the motivation of why I made this game. And so for you who are starting out, interpret what you want to make, but give it your own voice. If you have your own thoughts on how to make an indie game good, especially for those who are starting out, then leave them in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to read them and respond to some of them. I'll see you all in the next video.